I'm giving a brief talk about unconscious biases and how they affect our action or inaction to address the climate crisis. And I'm giving this talk to my ProVisors Networking group, and I thought I would share it with you. So let's get started. Unconscious biases serve as an energy-saving technique for our brain. If we can essentially avoid expending the energy of making decisions, then that saves energy for the brain to do other things. And unconscious biases serve as one of those tools. This is mostly beneficial, but sometimes it can be harmful when the brain inaccurately assesses risk, and by not taking action, you will end up preserving a status quo when maybe that's not the most appropriate thing. And media know about our unconscious biases, and people who advocate for inaction or preserving the status quo use our unconscious biases to their benefit to keep us from not taking action. So the unconscious biases that I'll go over today are normalcy bias, bystander effect, survivor's bias, and backfire effect. So the first is normalcy bias. And what this one does is tricks our brain into thinking that everything is fine, even when it's not. And it's particularly easy to trick the brain when the threat is invisible, like, say, a deadly virus or an invisible greenhouse gas. Everything looks fine, so the brain tricks us into thinking everything's fine. All right, the next one is the bystander effect. Even when our brain does see that there's some kind of urgent emergency happening, we'll trick ourselves into thinking that somebody else will take care of it. And therefore we can expend the energy of making the decision to do something and the energy of taking action on actually doing something. And then the third one is survivor's bias. I made it this far, so I'm going to be okay. And it's particularly easy for our brain to trick ourselves when we live in more resilient communities. Less resilient communities, oh yeah, so they may have a problem, but we'll be fine here. And another thing is, if you live in a place where the climate is particularly mild, like we do here in California, then we can trick ourselves into thinking, oh yeah, everything's fine. There's no problem here, while maybe the rest of the nation or the globe is having extreme weather events. All right, and then the last one I'll go over is the backfire effect. When our brain is confronted with some information that is it doesn't want to hear, then we go into la 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 la, and we just ignore it and deny it. And that allows us to preserve whatever belief systems or thoughts that we had without having to expend the energy to change the way we think and perhaps have to take action to address some emerging issue. So those are just 4 of the things that keep us from addressing the climate crisis, because if our brain does accept it, then that next step is you start to feel guilt for not taking action. And so these biases will have the effect of, 1, saving energy, avoiding taking action, and avoiding any feelings of guilt by tricking our brains into thinking that there isn't an emergency. All right, thanks so much for listening.